I always thought family meant unconditional love. You know, Sunday dinners, inside jokes, the kind of people who'd show up for you no matter what. But lately, I started feeling like an outsider in my own family. It wasn't one big thing, just small moments that added up. Missed calls. Half-hearted replies. My mom, Claire, suddenly forgetting to tell me about family get-togethers. My sister, Jenna, posting pictures of dinner parties I was never invited to. I told myself I was overthinking it. That maybe everyone was just busy. Until the night I found out the truth, and realized they hadn't just been excluding me, they were planning something far worse. It started with a ping on my phone around midnight. I was half asleep when I saw it, a message from my cousin Nate, but it wasn't meant for me. It was a screenshot from a family group chat I didn't know existed. The name of the chat hit me like a punch, Family Core. My stomach dropped. I scrolled through the image, my hands shaking, reading line after line of messages between my parents, my sister, and half my relatives. And then, near the bottom, I saw my name. Jenna, we just need to make sure Lily doesn't find out until it's finalized. Mom, she doesn't need to be involved. She's had enough from Grandma already. Dad, agreed. Keep her out of it. No drama this time. My chest tightened. Out of what? I texted Nate immediately, asking what the screenshot was about. He replied almost instantly, I shouldn't have sent that. Just forget it. But how could I? My parents, the people who raised me, were keeping something from me. Something big. The next morning, I tried calling my mom. She didn't answer. I called again, voicemail. When I texted, she just replied with a single line, busy today, talk later. My sister didn't respond at all. The silence said everything. So I did the only thing I could think of, I drove to my mom's house. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed the extra cars, my aunts, my uncles, even Jenna's. My heart started racing. They were all here. I opened the door and froze. They were sitting around the dining table, papers spread out in front of them. Everyone looked up when I walked in, and for a second, no one said a word. My mom's smile faltered. Lily, you weren't supposed to be here yet, she said quietly. What's going on? I asked, my voice trembling. What are you keeping from me? No one answered. My dad sighed and looked away. Jenna avoided my eyes completely. That's when I noticed the envelope in front of my grandmother's lawyer. Her will. And in that moment, I realized my entire family was planning to erase me from Grandma's legacy, right before my eyes. For a moment, no one moved. The air in that room was thick enough to choke on. My mom's fingers trembled slightly as she tried to hide the papers under her hand, but it was too late. I could already see Grandma's handwriting at the top of the first page, the official seal near the bottom. My heart pounded. This is Grandma's will, isn't it? I asked. My mom exchanged a glance with my dad before finally sighing. Lily, this is complicated. I laughed, but it came out hollow. Complicated? You mean secretive? You mean you all decided to meet here without me and go through Grandma's will behind my back? Jenna finally looked up. It's not like that, she said quickly. We were just reviewing some things before the lawyer finalizes it. Without me? I said. I'm her granddaughter too. My aunt shifted in her seat. Sweetheart, your grandmother wanted things to go smoothly. You know how emotional you can get. That hit harder than I expected. Emotional. That word had followed me all my life, whenever I cried, spoke up, disagreed. They used it to silence me, to make me the problem. I clenched my fists. What does that even mean? What are you hiding from me? The lawyer, an older man named Mr. Dawson, cleared his throat awkwardly. Miss Monroe, your grandmother's estate is being distributed among family members, as per her most recent will. However, there are revisions. I frowned. Revisions? She never told me anything about that. She made them a few months ago, he said softly, glancing at my parents. It seems she wanted to update a few allocations. My stomach turned. Allocations. The polite word for being cut out. And let me guess, I said bitterly. Those updates didn't go in my favor. My mom's lips tightened. Lily, it's not personal. Grandma thought this was for the best. The best for who? I shot back. You. Jenna? My father finally stood up. Enough. This conversation isn't going anywhere. You weren't supposed to be here. His tone wasn't angry, it was dismissive, like I was an inconvenience, an interruption. My throat burned. I wasn't supposed to be here because you didn't want me to find out. That's why you left me out of that stupid group chat, right? My mom's expression flickered with guilt. It's not like that. Then what is it like? I demanded. No one spoke. Just silence. The lawyer began to gather his papers, clearly uncomfortable. I think it's best we continue this discussion another time. But I wasn't done. I grabbed one of the documents from the table before my dad could stop me. My eyes darted across the lines of legal jargon until I saw my own name, crossed out. Next to it, Jenna's name had been written in. The inheritance of Grandma's lake house, the one she'd always said would be mine, was now hers. I felt the world tilt. My voice broke when I spoke. You replaced me, I whispered. You actually replaced me. But the part that shattered me most wasn't losing the house, it was discovering later that Grandma never signed that version of the will at all. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Grandma's handwriting, neat, slanted, familiar, and that thick black line crossing out my name like I'd never mattered. The more I thought about it, the less sense it made. Grandma would never do that. She'd told me countless times, the lake house is yours someday, Lily. It's where you learned to swim, where you scraped your knees, where you healed. That place was ours. So why would she change her mind just months before she passed away? Something didn't add up. The next morning, I called Mr. Dawson's office. He tried brushing me off at first, saying the revisions were finalized per standard procedure. But when I pressed harder, asking when and where Grandma supposedly signed them, his voice faltered. The documents were notarized here in my office, he said. Your grandmother came in with your mother and sister. That's impossible, I said, sitting up straight. Grandma was in the hospital then. She could barely walk. There was a long pause on the line. Well, he stammered, perhaps my memory's off. I'll double-check the file. He hung up before I could ask anything else. That's when I knew something was wrong. I drove straight to his office without telling anyone. He looked startled when I showed up. Miss Monroe, you can't just save it, I interrupted. I want to see the original signature. He hesitated but finally opened a cabinet and pulled out a folder. My heart pounded as he slid the paper toward me. And there it was, the updated will, with Grandma's name scrawled across the bottom in ink that looked too dark, too fresh. I ran my finger over it, then reached into my bag. I pulled out one of Grandma's old birthday cards she'd sent me last year. The signatures didn't match. Hers was always a little shaky but full of loops and grace. This one was sharp, stiff, unnatural. This isn't her signature, I said quietly. Mr. Dawson's face paled. Miss Monroe, I can assure you it's legally verified. Verified how? I snapped. By the same people who excluded me? I left his office shaking, anger and disbelief mixing in my chest. On the drive home, I called my cousin Nate, the one who'd accidentally sent me the screenshot. Nate, I need to ask you something. Who made that group chat? He was silent for a moment. Aunt Claire, he said finally. She added everyone but you. They've been talking about Grandma's estate for months. My grip on the wheel tightened. So they planned this? He sighed. Look, I shouldn't even be talking to you. But there's something else. The night before Grandma died, she asked me to bring her briefcase. She said there was a letter inside for you. But when I came back the next morning, your mom told me not to worry about it, that she'd take care of it. My heart sank. What letter? He hesitated. I don't know. But whatever it was, she didn't want you to see it. I stared out the windshield, watching the world blur by in streaks of color and rain. Everything made sense now, the secrecy, the chat, the meeting. They weren't just hiding the will. They were hiding Grandma's message to me. And I was done being left out, because if my family was rewriting Grandma's story, I was about to uncover the truth they buried with her. I didn't tell anyone where I was going that morning. My mom thought I'd given up, and for once, I was happy to let her believe it. But deep down, I knew there was one place left to look, Grandma's lake house. They might have taken her money, her will, even her voice, but there were still traces of her there. She always said, I hide things where the heart feels safest. I didn't know what that meant until I stood in the house again, the air heavy with dust and memories. Her chair by the window was still there, her favorite teacup still sitting on the shelf. Everything felt untouched, frozen in time. I checked the drawers, her old jewelry box, the kitchen cabinets, nothing. But then I remembered something, the piano. Grandma's pride and joy. I sat at it, pressing one of the keys. It stuck slightly, the sound dull. I lifted the cover, and that's when I saw it. A thin envelope taped beneath the lid, yellowed with age and labeled in her handwriting, for Lily. My hands trembled as I pulled it free. Inside was a short letter and a smaller envelope addressed to her lawyer, Mr. Dawson. The first line stopped my breath. If you are reading this, my dear Lily, it means they've already started fighting over what I've left behind. I felt my chest tighten. Please know, my will is simple. I've made a separate copy with my true intentions, one that cannot be altered without both my and the notary's approval. I've entrusted it to a friend, someone outside the family, who will know when to deliver it. Do not trust your mother with the legal papers. She will try to make things her way. Protect the foundation, and remember, you are my choice. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. Grandma had known. She'd known my mother would try to twist everything. But the letter raised a bigger question, who was this friend? And where was the separate copy she'd mentioned? I tore open the smaller envelope addressed to Mr. Dawson. Inside was a folded document with his initials and a date. It was a letter of instruction, ordering him to hold a duplicate version of the will until Grandma's passing. It stated clearly that any revisions made after that date were invalid without her direct signature and physical presence. My jaw clenched. That meant the will they used to cut me out was legally worthless. But if Grandma's true will still existed, where was it? I needed answers, and only one person could give them to me. I called Mr. Dawson's office again, but this time, his assistant answered in a panic. I'm sorry, she said. Mr. Dawson isn't available. Someone broke into the office last night. They took several client files, including your grandmother's. My stomach dropped. Someone had beaten me to it. Do you know who? I asked. No, she whispered. But your mother came in the day before asking for copies. I hung up, my pulse roaring in my ears. She knew. She knew about the letter, and now she was cleaning up the last piece of evidence Grandma had left for me. But she didn't realize Grandma had hidden one more secret, something not even the will could protect, but I could use to destroy their entire plan. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my mother's calm, practiced smile, the one she used when she was lying. She'd stolen the files, I was sure of it. But if Grandma really had a backup plan, then there had to be more than just that letter. I went back through the envelope, turning it over, running my fingers along the edges. Something crinkled inside the paper lining. I tore it open carefully, and out slipped a small photo, Grandma standing beside a man I didn't recognize. He was middle-aged, graying at the temples, wearing a suit and a badge clipped to his pocket. On the back, in her handwriting, were the words, "For when they turn on you, call Robert Hale." Robert Hale. The name meant nothing to me, but the badge in the photo did. He was a lawyer. Probably someone Grandma trusted outside the family. I spent hours searching his name online until I found him, a retired attorney who'd once handled estate disputes. His office was 2 towns over. I drove there the next morning, my nerves twisting tighter with every mile. The small brick building looked quiet, almost forgotten. When I walked in, an older man looked up from behind a cluttered desk. "Can I help you?" he asked. I took a breath. "My name is Lily Monroe. I think you knew my grandmother, Eleanor." The moment I said her name, his expression changed. He leaned back, eyes softening. "Eleanor Monroe," he murmured. I was wondering when her granddaughter would find me. He motioned for me to sit, then pulled out a dusty file from his cabinet. "Your grandmother came to me years ago," he said. "She wanted to make sure her wishes couldn't be manipulated. She created 2 wills, one for the family to see, one that held her real intentions. She told me to deliver the second version if anything seemed suspicious after her passing." My pulse raced. "Do you still have it?" He nodded slowly. "Yes. But there's a problem. Someone tried to access it last week. Claimed to be you." My heart stopped. "My mother," I said. "She must have used my name." He frowned. "That would explain the false ID we caught. Thankfully, my assistant refused to release it. But now, I have to be certain you are who you say you are." I handed him my license, and after verifying it, he passed me a sealed envelope marked with Grandma's initials. "She trusted you, Lily," he said quietly. "She said you'd know what to do." My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a notarized will, completely different from the one my family had used. It clearly stated that the lake house and half of Grandma's estate were to go to me, while the rest was to fund the local community center she'd built. My parents' names weren't even listed as beneficiaries. For a second, I couldn't breathe. "This changes everything," I whispered. Mr. Hale nodded. "It does, but it'll get ugly. If your family forged documents, this isn't just about inheritance anymore. It's criminal." I left his office clutching the envelope like it was life itself. For the first time, I felt power shift back into my hands. But deep down, I knew my mother wouldn't go down quietly. She'd already erased one version of Grandma's will. What would she do when she realized I had the real one? The next morning, I got my answer, because when I woke up, the police were at my door, and they said my mother had just filed a fraud complaint against me. The knock on my door came at 7 in the morning, loud enough to shake the walls. I opened it half asleep, still in my sweatshirt from the night before. 2 police officers stood on my porch, rain dripping off their jackets. "Lily Monroe?" one of them asked. I nodded, heart pounding. "We have a report filed against you for possession of forged legal documents." My blood went cold. "What?" "That's not true." But they were already stepping inside, reading me my rights as they asked to see the documents. I handed over the envelope from Mr. Hale, my hands trembling. "These aren't forged," I said. "My grandmother's lawyer gave them to me." They exchanged a quick glance. "You can explain that at the station," one said. An hour later, I sat in a gray interrogation room, staring at my reflection in the one-way mirror. My phone buzzed in the evidence tray. It was Caleb, an old friend who happened to be a junior lawyer. I'd texted him before they took it away. He burst into the room 20 minutes later, all business. "Don't say another word without me," he told the officers. Once they left, he turned to me. Okay. Tell me everything. I explained about the fake will, the hidden letter, the backup plan, and my mother's accusations. By the time I finished, he rubbed his temples. So your mom filed a fraud complaint before you could expose her? I nodded. She's trying to flip the story before the truth comes out. Caleb sighed. It's a bold move. But it's sloppy. You said Robert Hale gave you that will, right? He's a credible witness. That's our key. Later that afternoon, I was released, pending a court date. As soon as I got home, I called Mr. Hale to warn him. No answer. I called again. Voicemail. A cold dread filled my chest. He'd always answered before. I drove to his office, but the door was locked, lights off. Through the glass, I could see papers scattered across his desk, one drawer hanging open. I pressed my face closer, and that's when I saw it. His file cabinet had been forced open, and the folder with Grandma's initials was gone. I stumbled back, my pulse racing. Someone had beaten me there, again. When I got home, there was a letter taped to my door. No envelope. Just a single sheet of paper with my mother's handwriting. Stop digging before you ruin what little family you have left. My hands shook as I read it. The kindness in her words was gone, replaced with something cold and calculated. That's when I realized this wasn't about grief anymore. This was war. And if she wanted to destroy me, she'd have to do it in court. Caleb called that night. We'll file a counterclaim, he said firmly. Forgery, manipulation of legal documents, and obstruction. But we'll need proof, something undeniable. I opened my drawer and pulled out Grandma's piano letter, the one that started everything. Then we start here, I said. She might have erased the evidence, but Grandma's voice is still louder than hers. What I didn't know was that my mother wasn't acting alone, and the person helping her was someone I trusted completely. The next morning, Caleb met me at a cafe near the courthouse to go over our strategy. I hadn't slept, and neither had he. My nerves buzzed like electricity under my skin. We'll need character witnesses, documented proof from Robert Hale's records, and the notary verification, he said, flipping through his notes. If your mother really changed that will, there has to be a paper trail. I nodded, barely listening. My mind was still on Hale's office, the broken drawer, the missing folder. Whoever broke in had known exactly what to take. That wasn't random. That was targeted. Caleb, I said slowly, how did my mom even know about Hale? He frowned. You said you didn't tell anyone, right? No one, I said. Then I hesitated. Well, except you. He froze, his pen hovering mid-air. Lily, you can't seriously think. I don't know what to think, I snapped, my voice sharper than I meant. You're the only person who knew about the second will. His jaw tightened. I've been on your side since this started. But something in his tone sounded rehearsed, too measured. My stomach twisted. Then why were you at the police station before they even called me? His eyes flickered. I got a tip from a friend. A friend, I repeated, disbelief rising. You mean the same friend who somehow knew exactly when the complaint would be filed? He stood up, running a hand through his hair. Lily, you're paranoid. You're under stress. Maybe, I said quietly. Or maybe I finally stopped trusting the wrong people. He left soon after, claiming he had a meeting with a senior attorney. I watched him walk out, my gut screaming something wasn't right. That night, I decided to test my theory. I called Hale's office again, this time from a different number, and asked to leave a message for Caleb Hartman. The receptionist hesitated, then said, I'm sorry, he's not here anymore. He stopped by earlier to collect a file under your case number. My blood ran cold. What file? I asked. The Monroe estate documents, she said. He said you sent him? I hung up, hands shaking so hard I nearly dropped my phone. Caleb had the original will, the one Hale had given me. He'd lied, stolen it, and probably handed it straight to my mother. Betrayal doesn't feel like fire, it feels like ice. It freezes you mid-breath, mid-thought, mid-heartbeat. I'd trusted him completely. I'd thought he was helping me uncover the truth. Instead, he'd been feeding my mother everything she needed to destroy me. The next morning, I showed up at court ready to face them both. My parents sat on one side, calm and collected. And there, beside my mother, was Caleb, wearing a crisp suit, flipping through her documents like he'd always belonged there. He didn't even look at me. The bailiff called the court to order, and the judge entered. I sat down, my hands gripping the table, my anger hardening into resolve. If they thought they could rewrite my story again, they were wrong. I wasn't the same girl they could silence. I had one last move to make, one Grandma had prepared years before. Because hidden inside Grandma's letter was one final name, and that person was about to expose every lie my mother built. The courtroom felt colder than ever that morning, though sunlight poured through the high windows. My mother sat across from me, composed as always, her lawyer whispering in her ear. Caleb didn't glance my way, not once. The betrayal still burned hot in my chest, but anger wasn't going to win this. Proof would. As the judge called the case to order, I slid my hand into my bag and touched the envelope that had started it all, Grandma's letter. It wasn't until last night, when I'd reread it for the 100th time, that I noticed something small I'd missed before. A faint line of ink, pressed into the paper from her pen, like she'd started to write another sentence and changed her mind. Under the right light, I could make it out. If you need help, find Margaret. I hadn't seen that name in years. Margaret Ellis's Grandma's best friend, her neighbor at the lake house, and the woman who used to bring us fresh pies every Sunday. If anyone knew the truth, it was her. I'd called her immediately. When she answered, her voice had cracked with emotion. "Lily, your grandmother told me this day would come." I'd barely slept after that. And now, as the bailiff announced the witness list, I saw her step through the doors, gray hair pinned neatly, eyes bright with quiet fury. My mother's face drained of color. Margaret was sworn in and took the stand. My mother's lawyer tried to object, but the judge allowed it. "Mrs. Ellis," my attorney began, "can you tell the court your relationship to the late Eleanor Monroe?" "We were friends for nearly 40 years, she said. "I helped her manage the community center and her foundation." "Were you aware of any changes made to her will?" Margaret smiled faintly. "Oh yes. I was there when she signed the real one. The one she gave to her attorney, Mr. Hale." My mother stiffened. "And to your knowledge," the lawyer continued, "did she ever authorize a new version that excluded her granddaughter, Lily Monroe?" "Absolutely not," Margaret said, her voice firm. "In fact, she told me she'd hidden letters and records in case her family tried to interfere." The courtroom buzzed with whispers. My mother's lawyer scrambled for footing. "Mrs. Ellis, do you have proof of what you're saying?" She nodded slowly, pulling out a small USB drive. "Your grandmother asked me to record the day she finalized her will. She said if anything ever went wrong, this would speak for her." The judge allowed it to be played. The speakers crackled, and then Grandma's voice filled the room, steady, warm, unmistakable. "My final will names Lily Monroe as primary beneficiary. If anyone contests this document, consider any alternate version fraudulent." My mother's lawyer froze, then tried to object, but the damage was done. Caleb shifted uncomfortably in his seat, jaw tight. I watched my mother's mask start to crumble. She whispered something to Caleb, her voice sharp. He wouldn't look at her. For the first time, I saw fear flicker in her eyes. Grandma's voice continued in the background, calm and certain. "If this is being heard, it means they've tried to twist my intentions. Lily, trust yourself. You are the truth." When the recording ended, the silence was deafening. The judge glanced toward my mother. "Mrs. Monroe," he said, "do you have any explanation for this?" She didn't answer. She just stared down at her hands, her composure finally cracking. But before the verdict could be announced, the courtroom doors burst open, and the person who walked in carried the final piece that would end everything. Every head in the courtroom turned toward the door. The man standing there was soaked from the rain, his suit wrinkled, a folder clutched tightly in his hands. My heart stopped when I recognized him, Robert Hale. For a moment, no one spoke. Then he walked straight toward the bench, his voice steady despite the exhaustion on his face. Your Honor, I'm sorry for the interruption, but I have new evidence that directly affects this case. The judge nodded for him to approach. He handed over the folder, the seal still intact. This, he said, is the original, notarized copy of Eleanor Monroe's final will. I've been out of town securing a backup after my office was broken into. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. My mother went pale, and Caleb's face hardened. The judge flipped through the pages, his expression tightening as he compared the signatures. The handwriting matches the verified exemplar, he said. And the date predates the contested version by 3 months. My mother's lawyer tried to object, stammering about procedure, but the judge cut him off. I think we've heard enough. He turned to my mother. Mrs. Monroe, do you deny altering or submitting a falsified version of this document? She stayed silent, gripping the edge of the table like it might save her. Caleb leaned in to whisper something, but she shoved his hand away. Her calm, perfect composure finally shattered. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, it was supposed to be ours. Everything she had, everything she built, she owed us that. I stood up, trembling with fury. She didn't owe you anything, I said, my voice shaking. You abandoned her when she got sick. You only came back when there was money on the table. My mother glared at me, but her power was gone. For the first time, she looked small. You were always her favorite, she hissed. She made me feel like a stranger in my own family. Maybe that's because you never acted like family, I said quietly. The judge called for order and delivered the verdict. This court rules that the amended will submitted by Claire Monroe and her associates is fraudulent. The rightful and original testament of Eleanor Monroe is reinstated in full. He turned toward me. Ms. Monroe, your grandmother's estate and the lake house are legally yours. I barely heard the rest. My hands covered my face as tears spilled down. Grandma's voice from that recording echoed in my head, you are the truth. Caleb stood, trying to speak, but the judge cut him off. Mr. Hartman, as for your role in this forgery, the Bar Association will be notified. Consider your license suspended pending investigation. He looked at me, shame written across his face. I didn't say a word. The bailiff escorted him and my mother out as the courtroom erupted in murmurs. Outside, the rain had stopped, sunlight breaking through the gray clouds. I stood on the courthouse steps, the lake house key in my hand. It wasn't just a victory, it was closure. Grandma's legacy was safe, not because of her money, but because she believed in me even when no one else did. Months later, I restored the house, turning it into a community retreat in her name. Sometimes I'd sit by the piano she loved, run my fingers over the same keys where I found her first letter, and whisper, you were right, Grandma. The truth always finds its way home. Because in the end, this wasn't just a story about inheritance, it was about reclaiming my voice from the people who tried to silence it. And that, more than anything she left behind, was my real inheritance.